grade, the bonds will last. It's the Lambert Connected Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lambert Connected Podcast, where our goal is for students and families to feel safe, feel connected, and make sure everyone can thrive. I'm Alyssa Degliamberto, principal at Johns Creek Elementary.
And I'm Amber Lamb, principal at Settles Bridge Elementary, and we are so glad you're here. We are excited to introduce two special guests joining our conversation today, Grace Podorf from Johns Creek Elementary, the school counselor, and Ashley Bear, wellness coordinator for Forsyth County Schools. Welcome, ladies, to the podcast.
Thanks. Thank you for having us.
In this episode, we'll talk about the big and small changes that happen in and outside of school. All the transitions, like starting a new grade, making friends, solving problems, getting ready to transition to middle school, test-taking anxiety, and learning how to calm our minds when things feel a little tough.
We believe that when children feel safe and supported, they're ready to learn and shine. And when families and teachers work together, amazing things can happen. We'll share stories from our classrooms, simple tools for emotional regulation that you can try at home, and practical ways to build strong, positive connections that help every student do their best during life in elementary school, especially during the transitions they will face, and this will serve them well even after they leave us for middle school, high school, and adulthood. So whether you're riding to school, having family time, or just taking a break, take a deep breath, relax, and join us as we stay Lambert connected. Welcome, Grace and Ashley. Let's get started. What are the most common emotions children experience during these elementary year transitions, and why?
Yeah, it's such an important question because transitions, even positive ones, are a big deal for children. In elementary school, transitions happen all the time. At the start of a new school year, adjusting to new teachers, changing friendships and social dynamics, or even smaller shifts like returning from breaks or changes in classroom routines or responsibilities. The most common emotions we see are excitement, nervousness, and sometimes worry. And it's very normal for all those to exist at the same time. Kids and adults can feel excited about what's new and still feel anxious about the unknown. For example, a child might be thrilled about finally being in third grade, but nervous about having more responsibility. Or a kindergartner may feel proud to ride the bus all by themselves, but anxious about remembering where to sit. Their worlds are constantly growing, and that growth comes with big feelings. Younger kids, especially, are still learning how to name those feelings. Sometimes that nervous energy shows up as extra silliness, clinginess, or even irritability. Parents might hear more, "I don't want to go" in the mornings at the start of the school year, or tears at drop-off. Those behaviors don't mean something's wrong. They usually mean your child's body and brain is just adjusting to a new rhythm. And when we help them label what they're feeling, like, "It sounds like you're nervous to meet your new teacher," it gives their brain language for that experience, which actually helps calm their nervous system.
So experiencing all these emotions, and sometimes that they come at the same time, how can parents and teachers recognize the signs of anxiety or stress in students during these transitions?
Anxiety in children often doesn't look the same as anxiety in adults. It can show up in subtle ways, like you might see avoidance, like not wanting to go to school, physical complaints like headaches or stomach aches, trouble sleeping, or emotional outbursts over small frustrations. Sometimes it can look like perfectionism, like a child rewriting their work over and over or getting really upset over a small mistake. That's their way of trying to control what feels uncertain.
So how do we ensure that our children do not have test-taking anxiety? That could be classroom assessments or the Georgia milestones.
That's a really important question. Test anxiety is common, and addressing it early can make a huge difference in children's confidence and performance during our elementary years, but even more importantly, their success on assessments in middle school and high school and beyond. It's really a mix of physical signs that we might see with sweaty palms or stomach aches, but also just might have those emotional components of fear or worry, and these reactions can make it hard for students to show what they truly know. I've always said that, I try to tell students that it's like picture day, but for your mind. We get ready for picture day and we're excited, and it just is one glimpse of what we're able to do. So it tells us in that point in time, how are you learning? What can you do? And then we take those results to know where to focus on for future lessons, for the teachers, and also for students to know what are their strengths and then what are the areas that they can improve on. So we try to make it a little, more relaxing for students, just to show what they know and not to be worried so much about the outcome.
Absolutely. And so what are some things that we can do to prevent test-taking anxiety? And as a parent, you're key in that, in creating calm, supportive environments, definitely de-emphasizing testing results. Talk about the test as a way to show what they've learned, not as a judgment of their worth or their intelligence. Again, we need to model calm confidence, children taking their emotional cues from adults. So avoid talking about tests that are to make them anxious or that it's a high-stakes term, like this test is really important. Instead, say things more like, you've worked so hard and you're ready to do your best. That's what matters most to us. At school, we will handle all of that, building test familiarity. The teachers will have students practice in low-stress settings like short quizzes or practice questions to build their comfort with the test format. And for milestones, for example, they practice with some of the released items. Our staff simulates testing conditions occasionally so they know what to expect, like having time limits, using the computer tools that are available. They also will teach them all the test-taking strategies they need, like eliminating wrong answers, pacing, reviewing, and staying calm when stuck.
Another thing we definitely need parents to support is encouraging healthy routines, making sure that students get adequate sleep and that they have healthy nutrition. A well-rested and well-fed child performs far better and feels much calmer, especially on those testing days. Regular movement is key. We want students to be able to exercise, which lowers their stress and increases their focus. And even some wellness practices like simple breathing exercises, even 1 to 2 minutes before a test, can greatly reduce anxiety. As adults, we also need to normalize mistakes and growth. And whenever we can show our children that we're making those mistakes and have conversations with them, I feel like is always key. I'm a mom of 2 boys myself, and I'm constantly trying to point out when I didn't, plan for something and give myself enough time, but how did I recoup from that? And so I think that as long as we can praise their effort and persistence, not just the outcomes, then we can help to encourage them to do their best. And just to discuss times when you felt nervous but succeeded anyway, or maybe when you didn't succeed, but how you recovered from those instances. We want to emphasize learning as a process, but definitely not as perfection. So when we think about coping strategies or mindfulness practices that work best for elementary age students, Ashley, can you share what some of those might be?
Yes, a lot of our teachers are already using the breathing ball, and that's a great way to just whole group reduce anxiety and stress. If they take 5 deep breaths with the breathing ball, we want to breathe in through the nose, and that helps kids stay in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is their calming nervous system. Maybe doing a little movement before a test, getting outside. The number one benefit to being in nature is stress reduction. So making sure kids are getting out and getting outside and teaching them deep breathing strategies. One we use in the school system a lot is finger breathing, where they inhale up the fingers and exhale down, and they can get those 5 deep breaths. And really helping them understand that when they're stressed about a test, it actually blocks the brain from being able to remember information. So we really want to normalize breathing during test taking.
Yeah, and I think the key is to practice those skills during the good moments, not only the stressful ones. Because if a first time the child tries that finger breathing is when they're already crying or panicking, it won't feel helpful. But if it's something you do together regularly at bedtime or before school or while riding in the car, then the body learns it as a comfort cue. And that way it'll be much more effective when the child needs it.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. What resources should parents seek if their child's anxiety seems just more than typical? And how can educators collaborate with counselors to provide that proactive support?
Yeah, so all kids experience some anxiety, but it's when that anxiety starts getting in the way of daily life that we want to intervene with extra care and support. If parents notice their child worries are lasting for several weeks, starting to interfere with daily routines, like avoiding school, withdrawing from friends, or having sleep or appetite changes, that's a good time to check in with your child's teacher and school counselor. From there, we can determine whether the child might benefit from additional support, such as regular school counseling sessions or connecting families with outside mental health professionals. I always want parents to know that reaching out early is a good thing. The earlier we address stress or anxiety, the faster it becomes manageable.
I think communication's key there. Just making sure the parents are letting the teacher know or the counselor know, and that way we can see what supports are in the building.
Absolutely. It's definitely a partnership that we want from you all as parents, and then that we can come alongside from the school side just to help your student while they're at school, and we can share strategies between both environments.
For sure. And all of us as parents want our students to be confident and adaptable from their elementary years and obviously throughout the rest of their years. But what does resilience actually look like in children, especially during their elementary years?
When we talk about resilience, we're really talking about a child's ability to cope with challenges and recover after setbacks. In elementary school, it might look like a student trying again after missing one word on their spelling test or finding a new friend to play with after a disagreement on the playground. It's those small, everyday moments that build resilience. The key is helping kids understand that it's okay to make mistakes and we expect them to make mistakes. The important part is what we learn from our mistakes. Every time a child gets back up after a setback, their brain is actually building pathways that make it easier to handle tough situations in the future.
We know every parent wants their child to take on challenges with confidence, but that's not always easy, especially in today's world. So how can parents help their children to build resilience?
I think teaching kids to stay in the moment and let go of past mistakes. I think that's one of the hardest is kids tend to perseverate on a mistake and just keep beating themselves up. And so teaching them to let go, kind of stay in the moment, like we can't change that. And, using that as a strategy to, recover easier from mistakes.
Yeah, and I think one way that parents can help with that is, like you were saying, building or praising that effort over the success and modeling that themselves. Like if something doesn't go as planned for you as a parent, like if you burn family dinner, talk about it out loud. I maybe say, well, that didn't work out the way I hoped, but I'll try to make it again tomorrow. Because when kids hear that monologue from us, they realize it's okay not to be perfect. Another practical way to reinforce effort is to talk about reflective questions when your kids get home from school. So instead of just asking, how was your day? Or what did you learn today? Try asking, what was something that challenged you today? Or what was something that was difficult today that you overcame? Those little conversations remind kids that growth comes from effort, not always getting it right.
Those are great strategies, and we definitely want to be models for children. Or even if you see something out in public, another interaction that you witness at the grocery store or the library, you might, later in the car talk about like, hey, did you see that happen? How did you feel about that? What did you think? And I think, as much as we can find real world examples for children, it really helps them to see how it plays out in their own lives.
Absolutely.
So, what does strong homeschool collaboration look like, and how can parents show their kids they care about their education?
Collaboration between school and home is one of the most powerful predictors of student success. When kids see their parents and teachers working together, it sends a clear message. The adults in my life are on the same team, and they believe in me. Stay engaged with teachers and counselors. Even quick check-ins like, is there anything we can reinforce at home? Or what's been going well lately? Help us create consistency for the student. Kids thrive when expectations and language at home match what they hear at school. That consistency builds trust. For example, if a teacher is emphasizing that effort over outcome, parents can echo that at home. And if a counselor is teaching a student breathing tools or self-calming strategies, try using them as a family. Maybe say, let's do our box breathing before dinner. And I'm not saying you need to be super involved in everything, but the important thing is to remain engaged. You don't have to volunteer all the time or attend every single school event, but it can be as simple as asking your child's teacher how you can support and share what's working at home. That shared communication helps us wrap around each student with care.
So as we wrap up our podcast here, talking about just how we can better engage and be connected with our students, especially around these transitions. We hope you've heard some valuable tips and tricks of ways to engage with your student at home. Is there anything else anybody wants to share?
I would say definitely reach out to your child's school. All the schools in the Lambert Connected Cluster are here to help your children. So if you feel like your child's having some emotional regulation issues or concerns and anxiety around transitions or testing, please reach out to your school's administrators or your school's counselors or all of the above. We are all here to help your children have the best, most successful year. And the more we give them the tools K through 5, the better they're going to be equipped for middle school, high school, and adulthood to face any challenges that come their way.
Absolutely. Well, we are so excited to be connected with you. We know that you are your child's first teacher, and we are just proud that we get to partner with you through all of the schools in Lambert Connected. We hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.